Ahoy, fellow captains of the digital high seas! Welcome to a grand voyage of discovery into the vast, uncharted waters of artificial intelligence. I'm your guide for today's adventure, an early explorer in these parts who's braved these waters before. But know that every one of us here is a captain of our own AI ship. We're all here on a quest for knowledge, a quest for understanding, for a compass to steer our way through these digital seas. But be warned, it's not all smooth sailing and buried treasure in the world of AI. There are uncharted islands and treacherous reefs, and maybe even a few sea monsters. But fear not! We're not here just to survive these waters. We're here to master them, to map them, and to find the treasures that lie beneath inside their depths. So hoist the mainsail and prepare to weigh anchor and get ready to embark on a journey that delves deep into the heart of AI and the soul of creativity. Welcome to our grand adventure as we chart AI's high seas together. Are you with me? Say aye! Aye! So let's begin by looking at where we are today. AI is all around us. In digital assistants and search engines, ride sharing, video streaming, social media, music. The tech giants are rolling it out, especially this year in 2023. Amazon, Google, Microsoft coming to a desktop soon near you, into the OS, and Adobe. Adobe's like, yeah, we're not just rolling this out this year. We've been working on this for 10 years, and now it's coming out to us. And even more places. Chatbots, speech to text, self-driving cars, facial recognition, and robots. But in case you haven't seen it, here's what ChatGPT looks like, the plus version. Ask anything, learn anything, create anything, and then refine it to perfection. Land ho! Buried treasure found already, impersonation. For a ChatGPT example, impersonation is something you can use for speeches, emails, posts and tweets, announcements, articles, blurbs, any creative writing kind of thing where image and tone matter. Here's an example where I'm impersonating myself. Please author a speech about using AI that I could give at a conference in the style and tone of me. Only the pirate version of me as demonstrated in the text version of my PowerPoint presentation. And then I copied and pasted all the notes of my PowerPoint presentation so it would have the context and some of the opening text that you just heard me say a few minutes ago. Ahoy, fellow captains. And then there it comes with a response. Avast, me hearties. Welcome ye all to this grand journey we embark upon today, navigating the treacherous and thrilling waters of artificial intelligence sea. And I be the Captain Michael, an old salt who's weathered many, so on and so forth, all the way down to where at the very end where it ends with, raise your glasses, me hearties. Here's to sailing the AI's high seas, to finding treasure and battling fear. So there's an example. Oh! Select and say, more treasure found. Woohoo! If you haven't seen the Adobe Photoshop beta, here's an example right here where this feature I'm calling select and say is where you get the selecting tool and you basically drag a selection around what you want and then you say what you want. Like for instance, ancient pirate map of a large ocean with artistically drawn sea monsters, various ships with sails, a compass, and waves, and dun 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 dun. It shows you what you said you wanted. And it usually shows you 3 examples. Like if we tab through all these examples, we could click here and then, oh, here's another example. And if you don't like that one, here's another example. And I do like this version. I'll use it in this presentation. But I need to change some things. Like I'm not sure I want these ships in the middle. I need some clear space. So I would select around this area. And then I would say, nothing. I would leave the prompt blank and then dun 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 dun. The AI goes in and it fills in what it would be like if this area of the screen was blank based on all the stuff that surrounds it. So, oh wow, so powerful. And if I want to improve the size of these ships, if I want to add a sun, a yellow sun beaming down rays of light, if I want to add storms and a compass rose, a sea monster wreaking havoc among all these ships. And you can select and say and select and say and continue to modify and create your own pieces with all this stuff coming from the AI. So powerful. And more treasure, neural filters. Also inside Adobe Photoshop Beta, you can select a picture and then change the seasons. I could, on a scale from 0 to a lot, you could say, I want a lot of winter or I want a little bit of winter based on these presets. You could do the same for autumn, spring, and summer. Day, night. This is a artistic version of winter that you're seeing here, but in nature, landscapes and stuff, it's brilliant. It's swapping from one type of time of year and lighting to another. Very powerful. Here's another example where, this was a biopic that I took, and I wasn't so happy about the background, so AI selected my subject and it drew and selected exactly around me and all my hair and down around. And then I selected the opposite inverse of this background and described blue skies with white clouds over the Smoky Mountains in the fall. And there I had a whole new background, or as many backgrounds as I want to sit here and describe. I can keep searching for the best one for my biopic. But then also, I could change the expressions on my face or the eye directions. Surprise, anger. What happens if we select the anger and move it all the way up 50 plus? Urgh! And maybe a pirate hat too. Aha! So you can see this is starting to be very powerful without a whole lot of expertise going into it. What is AI? It's kind of an exploration of what humans actually want, not just what they say they want. Here is AI recommending all these YouTube videos to me based on what it thinks I want. AI working on my behalf to give me what I want. But it raises the question, what do people actually want and what will happen if they get it? Will there be like a whole bunch of new people screaming out loud, nothing's gonna stop me? Where will you go with AI? And do you have any fears about where other people will go with AI? Will they be like this guy in this picture standing in his pajamas in the front driveway trying to use AI to build like a nothing's gonna stop me photo joke for a PowerPoint presentation? Or will it be something more nefarious? No, we don't want that. Or something altruistic and generous and resilient, or somewhere in between. What is it gonna be? There's the start, and here we begin, where from your hands the compass swings. We launch our voyage into the digital high seas of AI. Here's our treasure map where we'll be moving from place to place across these vast oceans. And notice that there is a treasure at the end. But first stop, you need to be aware of this scariest of scary places in the white mist. If you should see it, be very, very afraid. For there lies the end of the world, and you can sail right off the edges into the bad, the evil, the lost, the fear and doom surrounding AI. And no joke, if you hang out close to the edge of these places, focusing on all these aspects of AI, you can just land paralyzed, and that is pretty much the end of your AI journey. So don't travel too close. But to address what is at the heart of AI, we need to begin with not AI, but HI, human intelligence, where it's the humans who are saying, "Dear AI, here is what I really want." And it might not just be a Christmas present. That's putting it lightly. But what kinds of things are we talking about with human intelligence, like kindness and love? Well, land ho! More buried treasure found! Brainstorming. This is for when you can only think of a few things and you wish you could think of more, but it's just not coming to you. Idea generation for content. ChatGPT it's one of its greatest features is the ability to help you think of things fast. It doesn't take you days or weeks or months or years later. Oh, now I got a good idea. You can generate a bunch of them on the fly, as many as you ask for, and refine them with business names, product names, taglines, slogans, problem solving, event planning themes, character names. Oh, you can build whole world building exercises for a novel, all the characters and backstories, design concepts, in software, user experience scenarios or websites, project or research topics. The list of things you can brainstorm is endless in and of itself. I mean, this is a brainstormed list right here from ChatGPT, but I'm sure I could ask, give me 100 more, and then you would see them. So tons of brainstorming power when it comes to utilizing AI in this capacity. But let's use brainstorming to help us with human intelligence. Besides love and kindness, what else have we got? ChatGPT tells me, absolutely, I understand your aim and I'd be glad to help. The essence of human intelligence can be broken down into many positive traits and characteristics. These can include, but aren't limited to, and all these wonderful things: empathy, creative problem solving, adaptability, curiosity and exploration, all down the list over to altruism and resilience and playfulness, negotiation and mediation. And lest you think this talk is getting a little bit too much on the positive side, land ho! Another treasure found. Opposite perspectives. In the opposite perspective example, we can say, would there be an opposite negative list? And you can ask for the opposite thing. And this is great for watching your back and finding your blind spots. Times when communications get really sensitive and you need to know that you're hitting all the right notes and you're not leaving something out and missing something that the opposite perspective is going to be asking you about really quick if you don't address it fast. So in this example, yes, in many ways, the shadow or negative side of these positive aspects of human intelligence could be conceptualized. And here it lists 15 of them. And notice, hey, there were 15 in the list before, and they seem to directly correlate. Land ho! I need this other treasure, preferred formatting. Let's bring that into the mix. Can you format this list into a table for me with a negative column on the left matched with the positive column on the right? I'm not sure what the best titles for the column should be, but I want to show how intelligence augmentation can cause a shift and grow to the right. And so in this preferred formatting example, Ask for something that you can copy and paste that's already formatted for you. If this is a table, ask for a table, ask for a list, ask for a CSV, comma separated value format, ask for HTML web page format, and then lots of your work and formatting gets done for you. And here I took and copied and pasted this out into Microsoft Word, converted it into a table, and then massaged it and came up with this version for you to look at. On the left, potential pitfalls, the negative side. On the right, augmented intelligence. And for all of these negative potential pitfalls, take the first one, for example, apathy or indifference. There's the potential to augment human intelligence, shift to the right, and grow more empathy. There's the opportunity to go from uncreative or conventional thinking and shift to the right, to creative problem solving. On and on down the list, opportunities for human intelligence to be augmented and grow. Go all the way down to the last one here, negotiation and mediation. I want to zoom in on there with an example here. 20 years ago, I'm the father of 5 kids, but back then, there was chaos in my home, and there was anger, there was all kinds of crazy, and I tried my best to rein it in with the only tools I had at the time: punishment, force, threat. And you know what? It didn't work. I was blessed with a special child, a beautiful child who, no, this is not going to work. I escalated. Well, people were telling me, you're just not, you're being too mamby-pamby. You need to step up your game and escalate. I kept escalating: punishment, force, threat, punishment, force, threat. And then I just, punishment, force, threat. Why isn't it working? We love our kids. And there's only so much escalating you can do before you get into dangerous waters and points of no return that you just have to back away from. And in that moment, on this one specific day, I had to throw that all away and say, no, we're not doing that anymore. This is whatever we're doing, we're not doing this. And in that moment, my human intelligence grew just a little bit. And we were desperate for answers. We came across this book called The Explosive Child. You need a book to raise your human intelligence. And here you can see by the title, A New Approach for Understanding and Parenting Easily Frustrated, Chronically Inflexible Children. Oh, that is exactly what we were going through. And this book changed my view of humanity and human intelligence for the rest of my life, with this key takeaway: that children do well if they can. In other words, if your child could do well, he or she would do well. And I believe that's true of adults as well. And that way of thinking began to heal and bring in the needed mediation and negotiation skills that I didn't have up until this time. And so 10 years later, wow, such a long time span, until accidentally one day someone says, hey, you know what? You might be interested in nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg. I'm like, what? What is that? And some of these ideas began to form and formalize in ways that were more tangible beyond just kids will do well if they can. This new model is a needs-based model where, you know what, we all have the same needs as each other. We have the needs for sustenance and health, safety, security, rest, recreation, fun, loving and caring, empathy and understanding. We all need community and belonging, autonomy, authenticity, creative play. We have to have a sense of meaning and contribution. These are legit because we all share and we all know about needing these particular needs. But on top of that, we've also got legitimate feelings. And curiously, there's a pattern here. If all of your needs are met, you tend to have all these positive feelings. And if these needs are not met, then you tend to have these kinds of negative feelings. So there's some relationship here. But where it builds down to get off, this is the confusing part that maybe is not so legit, is the strategies we use and choose to meet our basic needs that we all share. You know what? There are a lot of horrible, terrible, no good strategies. Judgments, evaluations, blame, basic. These are some examples where, sometimes people are going to choose these kind of strategies, but other times they'll choose strategies where, we're going to meet these needs that we've identified. You need this? Okay, right now I'm needing this. We can work this out and cooperatively meet both of our needs. It doesn't just have to be, I'll meet my needs and you don't get to have your needs met. We can cooperate with it and build these strategies. And that's where AI can come in. But let me give you a tangible example. Recently, this year even, I was at this place where I was buying all these medical supplies, and they're like, hey, we can't tell you how much these supplies are going to cost. You just have to order however many you're going to order. And then later, we're going to bill you, and then you'll find out how much it costs. And I'm like, what? That sounds weirdo. But I'm like, okay. All right, well, I needed the medical supplies, so I ordered them, and so they were coming. And then I was waiting for this bill, wondering how much is this going to cost? And then something that threw me into a spin happened. And I went to ChatGPT to try to make sense of it all, and I said, look, I just received my first correspondence that says it's past due, this bill for $122, and the current amount that I need is $0. What? And then past due is 125, 122 right out of the gate. And then there's this idea, a threat, that it's almost ready for collections. And I'm like, and on top of that, it says in the letter that comes with it, this is a friendly reminder that the balance shown is now past due. This is not a reminder. And this doesn't sound friendly either. It sounds like threat. And then it says, if payment is not received within 15 days, a service charge will be added to your bill. They're going to charge me even more money? I looked at the calendar and it was 15 days right now. I'm like, And this started turning in me a whole lot of history where I've been wondering, how can companies just make up some random service charge amount and bill you and then threaten you to send you over to these things, and just take your money from you, some random amount of money that you don't even know how much it's going to be. They'll charge it to you, and then they'll charge you extra, some random amount you don't know what it's going to be. It's almost like they're making up numbers to take money from you. Why can't I make up numbers to bill for strange service things and bill them right back for as I pay them for stuff, and they can pay me back? I typed that all into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is like, don't do that. That's illegal. And moreover than that, it will be seen as an act of retaliation. And I'm like, well, they're doing it to me. Why can't I do it to them? If it's so bad, why are they doing it? And we went back and forth in this discussion because I was just hurting. You don't think straight when you're hurt. And I'm trying to figure all this out. And ChatGPT keeps choosing these kind, empathetic phrases like, I know this is difficult, I know this is hard, and this is frustrating to work through. But then it tells me what you need to do is take all your concerns and each of the things that you're worried about and take them to call them, talk to them, and give them a chance to respond and make some of these things right. And I'm like, what? That never works. You just end up on the phone. They don't understand. There's bureaucracy, all this kind of stuff. But it kept telling me, hey, you need to work this out with them. Don't write them any crazy, bill or anything like that. You just need to talk with them, open the lines of communication, and let them know your concerns so they can respond. And so I was like, okay, somewhere in me, this sounds like the right thing to do. It's the thing you do with people. Why don't you do it with companies too? And so I called the next morning and I was like, hey, I've got all these problems. And if I didn't get the nicest, most wonderful, most capable person on the other line, they listened to every single one of my concerns. They addressed each concern, and fear by fear just dissipated and evaporated until I hung up the phone, finally at peace again, whereas before would have spent a long time just in continued worried and frustration about it. So lots of things came to fruition, and I felt like in that moment my human intelligence grew. So I came back to this letter here, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Start a new session with ChatGPT. If I was a company writing a letter like this, couldn't I do it without threat, force, and punishment? Aren't there research papers that say, hey, this is how you get your legitimate money that people owe you from them? Isn't there a legitimate resource that says how to make a great letter that's really powerful, effective, without all these violent ways of communicating? And they're like, yeah. You need to be assertive and firm and clear, and you need to communicate frequently and set the expectations so that people know exactly what to expect, and then you'll get the best results. And I'm like, okay. And I took all the stuff on the screen you see here, I copied and pasted it in there, and I said, is this a good example of that? Or what do you think of this? And ChatGPT was like, this is a wonderful example that's very friendly and very cooperative, and I think you'll get good results from this. And I'm like, what? No. And I switched hats on ChatGPT. Said, oh, no, I'm the customer. And I read this, and I was like, no, I felt threat. I felt force. I felt punishment. How is this great? And ChatGPT went on to explain to me, well, it's not just what you communicate, it's when you communicate it. And sure enough, there had been lots of emails that I did not see because they were going to the wrong place in my email inboxes. And now that's why this was the first one. If I had been over here and had the current due, and this was a long ways away, I might not have seen the threat. There wouldn't have been this line in here like this. And so that's where I learned as a company for growth. And so here, land ho, treasure found. Intelligence augmentation. Oh, I shared my concerns, and my human intelligence grew as an individual trying to communicate. Oh, more treasure. Role playing. I role played as a provider, and my intelligence grew as an organization trying to communicate. And notice 2 days, 10 minutes, not 10 years later, or when you happen to come across a book that can help increase your human intelligence, it's happening lightning fast. Moving on, let's listen to Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, and that's the company that released ChatGPT. And here in his world tour, when he was at Tel Aviv, here are some things that he said. This was edited by AI Explained, another YouTuber. There's the full YouTube video to watch. Their link there. But thank you, AI Explained, for editing these clips from the Tel Aviv University together. Listen to what was said here about the dangers of AI.
But speaking of stopping AI, Sam Altman was asked about his own loved ones, and in response, he gave a utopic vision of the future and called the current world barbaric.
If you truly believe that AI imposes a danger to humankind, why keep developing it? Aren't you afraid for your own dear ones and family?
I think it's a super fair and good question, and the most troublesome part of our jobs is that we have to balance this like incredible promise and this technology that I think humans really need, and we can talk about why in a second, with confronting these very serious risks. Why to build it? Number one, I do think that when we look back at the standard of living and what we tolerate for people today, it will look even worse than when we look back at how people lived 500 or 1,000 years ago. And we'll say like, man, can you imagine that people lived in poverty? Can you imagine people suffered from disease? Can you imagine that everyone didn't have a phenomenal education and were able to live their lives however they wanted? It's going to look barbaric. I think everyone in the future is going to have better lives than the best people of today. I think there's like a moral duty to figure out how to do that. I also think this is like unstoppable. Like, this is the progress of technology. It won't work to stop it, and so we have to figure out how to manage the risk.
And notice what he said here. The word he chose, it's going to look barbaric. I think everyone in the future is going to have a better life than the best people of today. There's a tendency to take this whole talk and frame it as AI versus HI. But really, it's human intelligence versus human intelligence. And that's been the story of our entire history of humanity. We've been discovering and creating things: fire, the wheel, the printing press, the steam engine, the telegraph, electricity, and then humans are adapting in all the ways that they adapt. And then there's more stuff: telephone, automobile, flight, radio, television, atomic weapons. We're still trying to respond and adapt to that, but we're adapting. We're growing, we're responding to it. Then there's more stuff. Here comes the integrated circuit, the early internet, personal computers, mobile phones, the World Wide Web, Photoshop, smartphones, and here on the last line, AI-assisted technology with mixed responses. Excitement for potential, but concerns over job displacement and ethics. And so here we find ourselves now, back on the AI high seas, where from your hands the compass swings. Next stop on our journey across the AI high seas. Oh, this looks just like the screen from before, where there's bad, evil, loss, fear, and doom. And for all the things to worry about, we need a way to rein all this in, and that's why we need to find a way of limiting the scope to get the most out of AI. Hey, instead of focusing on that horizon, hey, look, there's a little guy needing help up here. Maybe we could focus and limit the scope just to focus on how we can benefit from AI. And there are a lot of filters that we can use to limit the scope. And a lot of the filters that you already know about can already help you, and they do apply to dealing with AI. For instance, I just shared with you this needs-based model. It's a way of limiting the scope in the world of AI. So when we talk about the AI and how people are going to choose strategies, here's all these legitimate feelings and needs, and then these strategies that are going to get plugged in the AI. It's a way to think about the whole model of human intelligence and narrow down the focus to what's beneficial. And speaking of beneficial, instead of jumping all the way to AI is evil, AI is bad, or AI is good, or AI is wonderful and right, instead of jumping to those places straight out of the gate, take a moment to zero in specifically on a specific prompt, on a specific usage, and ask, is this beneficial or is this non-beneficial? And then you can get your own custom answer to start to build in this new uncharted category of AI. What are the beneficial things that would lead me to good places? What are the non-beneficial things that would lead me to bad places? And start navigating new courses and new exceptions and new ways to think and evaluate based on the small growing into the bigger and bigger patterns that you begin to notice. Also, we could step onto the worldwide stage and solve AI for all humankind with the best regulation and legislation and rules and morality and governing and systems in our schools to utilize it. We may step on that stage, and that's completely valid, and that might be the stage you need. But for some people, that might be overwhelming and not the place that they want to start. And you can start locally in your circumstances, in your life, in your family, in your neighbors, and build out from there. What's beneficial? What's helpful right here, right now in my life? And then later begin to step onto the worldwide stage of all that's going on with humanity. And you probably already have this skill, the things you can control versus the things that you can't control. But enough about that. My favorite filter of them all so far for this talk I want to focus on is this quote from Marshall Rosenberg, who said, "Instead of playing the game Making Life Wonderful, we often play the game called Who's Right?" Do you know that game? It's a game where everybody loses. I mean, even if you're right in the end, all the people that you beat because they were wrong, you kind of broke your relationship with them, and now they're feeling like they lost, and that tension is there. And everybody loses in that scenario. But what if we played the game of making life more wonderful? It's understandable to play the game of who's right, because who's right about AI? It's the question that we start with. And if you start here, there are a plethora of questions that don't stop coming. Will AI take over the world? How will AI affect the stock market? What kinds of lives will our kids have? How will I know what's real anymore? What if AI turns off power or launches nuclear missiles? What will happen if education as we know it crumbles? Does AI added to biotechnology lead to another pandemic? Very paralyzing things. If you stay here and stay here and stay here and stay here, you need a way to limit the scope. And one way is to choose a different question to ask when you interact with AI, which is, how can I make life more wonderful? This productive question hasn't changed. And scrolling up the screen here, you can see a whole bunch of ways I just sat down and said, what are all the ways I've used AI this year? And I just typed them. And there's so many ways to make life more wonderful. And, just one that happened, a new one that's not even on here. I was on vacation a couple weeks ago in Florida, and we're staying at an Airbnb, and we need these dress clothes, these formal wears with neckties to go into this masquerade ball, but we don't have any. And we're wandering around Walmart and there's no neckties anywhere. And it's like, oh no, we're not going to be able to go to this. I don't know where to shop or anything else. It's too late to go get something else. And I pull out my phone and I have an idea. ChatGPT, can you help me figure out how to create some ties from scratch? And it starts telling me how to do it. And I grab 2 yards of black fabric and a sewing kit that has black thread and with all the needles and scissors and stuff. And we head back to our Airbnb and we stay up till 3 a.m. with my kids, creating this beautiful memory of making this costume with the formal neckties possible to go to this masquerade ball. Wow, a memory I'll treasure for the rest of my life. Just one tiny way that AI made life more wonderful. And that's the theme of this talk is, if you're feeling like AI is really big and really getting out of control and really disrupting your world, I hope that one thing that you can walk away from is this sense that AI is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the beauty of you gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the benefit of you to the world and to all your loved ones and all the people around you comes more and more full into tuition, into being. And AI services that, not detracts from it. So, moving back to the AI high seas, where from your hands the compass swings. Next stop, if we're going to do great things with AI, we need to think about building an AI model. What is the mental foundation for AI in your mind about how it works in order to be productive? So when I was a kid, I got onto the school bus one day and one of the kids had a calculator and he's like, oh, this calculator, you're not going to believe it. It's demon possessed. It's so scary. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like typing all these numbers, and they're all the crazy numbers from middle school kids, that we're scared of, like 666, the mark of the beast, and unlucky number 13, maybe something like the number of days till the end of the world predicted by Nostradamus, or all these things. And then finally he comes up with a number on the screen, 7734. And I'm like, what does that mean? He says, well, it means it's demon possessed because when you turn it upside down, it spells hell. It's like, no. And as middle schoolers were like, this is a calculator, right? Yeah, it's just a calculator. It's just a calculator. But, that's what we're hearing in the world of AI now, where, lots of stories about what AI is and how it works and what it's doing and what's going to happen. Sounds a lot like this calculator story when I was on a bus when I was a kid. But to be fair, if you go out and you actually ask, how does ChatGPT work? You don't necessarily get such a great answer. I mean, the name tells us some things. Chat, You talk with it. Yeah. Generative. Yeah. It calculates some output. Yeah. Got it. Pre-training. It uses source data. Yeah. Okay. They put data in it. Yeah. Duh. Okay. Yeah. There's got to get data from somewhere, or at least knows the English language. Transformer. A type of architecture model. Well, what's that? In 2017, Google released this paper, Attention is All You Need. And it had this diagram of the transformer model that changed everything, the flux capacitor of our time. And then it went through, and it's like, I'm studying this and I still don't understand that. And then, well, what data did you use to stick in here? For proprietary reasons, the specific data sources are not revealed. Well, okay, well, can you tell me how it works? The heart of the computations are so intricate that no one can consider them step by step. It's kind of like a black box where we stick in a bunch of input. We don't know what happens inside the black box, but then we get this output, sometimes with emergent qualities. And we're like, as humans, we tend to look at that black box and we're like, I think that's scary. And we put fear into the black box because, hey, the things we're scared might be true about what are going on in there might actually be true. And then we're in a terrible black, dark place that I don't know what's going to happen. But looking at this, I want to give you the best model that I've come across. The other day, I was looking at it and I thought, this is a lot like Scrabble. Based on what I'm reading here and all this research and stuff and how it works, it sounds like Scrabble. I even talked about ChatGPT with this idea. And I was like, okay, it could see that too. And I was like, okay, well, in Scrabble, you've got these letters, right? And your job is to take all these letters and mix them around and form them into a legitimate word. Only if you use some of these letters, they're worth more points. Like P is worth 3, Y is worth 4. So if you use those letters, even more points, those are more important because they're more rare and stuff like that. But you can't just lay these words anywhere on a Scrabble board. You have to interact with existing words that are already there. So like, there's unit. I would have to figure out a word that goes and intersects with that. But then it goes beyond that. Not only do you have to intersect with the words that are already there, if you happen to land on one of these squares with your word, like you get triple letter score or double word score or double letter score or triple word score. Wow, major points. And that's how it is with large language models like ChatGPT. Instead of just having a tile bag with a few letters in it to form words, we've got all these writings all the semantic patterns and what people have said many, many times before, the patterns and ways to associate. And they spend a year finding out, oh, these are the important, most weighted patterns that we need to pay attention to for all these words and phrases and sentences. And they spend a year making those connections, like building the little scores on the letters, if you will. And then there's another 6 months they did, like training of humans, feedback on what it's helpful. And that's like these little squares on the board where when the AI comes back and it says, hey, I'm laying down a word, and it happens to land on triple word score, we're like, woohoo! And we give that feedback, and that says, hey, we're going to weight these particular types of responses with even more points and more weight. Then along comes us, the prompts of humans, who haven't been doing this for a year and a half, but in one setting we come along and we say something like, can you check the tone and wording of my writing for anything inadvertently offensive? And then you insert your writing here. And then all of a sudden, all these words that have come before, with your words added on at the end, do a symbol and semantic calculation of the words that statistically would follow. And then it's like dominoes. It's all just falling down, trickling down until you get to, these are the words that would come next. And it happens in a few seconds. And we're like, oh. But really, it's just a calculation. It's just the numbers of weighted terms associated with other terms in massive numbers of associations. That's why nobody can quite grasp exactly how it works. And the math works out to land these particular words. So, notice we had this little example here I don't want to skate by without recognizing more treasure. Sensitivity reading. In the sensitivity reading example, you can ask to check the wording and the tone of your writing for something that might be offensive. And this is very helpful before you hit reply all, before posting, before clicking send, before you do a last minute broad communication to a whole bunch of people. You can check and get a sensitivity reading and make sure that what you're releasing is going to be as bulletproof as it can possibly be. And, a pro tip, go ahead and specifically state your concerns, what people groups you are worried might be offended and why, and just any other concern you have about your writing, and it'll give you feedback specifically on those things. So, but as amazing as the results you get back from all these words based on all the authors that have been throughout our history and time, AI calculations are not, it needs to be said, human, emotional, autonomous, creative, ethical, unbiased, self-aware, capable of sensory perception. For instance, AI doesn't experientially know what it feels like to stub your toe and have your 5-year-old try to comfort you with their blankie. It doesn't know that. It's not ambitious. It's not desirous or intuitive or empathetic. It's looking at the writings of all these things and based on those words, pulling together something that looks like it would be weighted with the same values that have been weighted in past works. So AI is not these things. And with that awareness, let's go back out and tackle the high seas, where from your hands the compass swings. Next up, emotion. AI may not have emotion, but we do. Those chemicals and biochemicals are going through us, and words affect us. And as a first example, one thing that my boss wanted me to give in a similar talk to this was this idea that you need to watch out for data privacy. So I took a whole article he wrote on data privacy. I married it and said, hey, ChatGPT, can you write me a song just like this pirate shanty, the Wellerman song lyric, and write me a version based on data privacy? And it came up with this. And I thought I would perform it for you right now. And it has a stomp clap. And here we go. There once was a bot that talked all day. Its name we called it the Chat GPT. It charmed with tales, it shone so bright. But oh, my friends, beware the night. Soon may the data leaks come to show us the cost of careless fun. One day when the lesson is learned, we'll chat with care, with risks spurned. It's not been 2 weeks since we found a right breach bore and brought us down. The users called all hands and roared, we'll shield our data or we're floored. Soon may the data leaks come to show us the cost of careless fun. One day when the lesson is learned, we'll chat with care, with risks spurned. No password shared, no secrets spilled, the user's duty trust instilled. In this realm of AI's creed, we must protect what we feed. Soon may the data leaks come to show us the cost of careless fun. One day when the lesson is learned, we'll chat with care, with risk spurned. Da 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 da. Oh, okay. Well, you might be saying, okay, yeah, just I don't need to worry about this. I'm not going to be pasting in my credit card numbers and social security numbers or any other kind of sensitive password information. But when you use this next treasure, you might be tempted to accidentally summarizing. Yes, and you can see these ships are here and they're watching and they're trying to participate in this exercise. Some pirates to pull out some things you might not be aware that you're summarizing. Here's a little comic for you. AI turns this single bullet point into a long email I can pretend I wrote. And this person says, AI makes a single bullet point out of this long email thread I can pretend I read. You know, if summarizing is indeed a wonderful tool, especially if you have any reading issues or any kind of disability. Tons of people with all kinds of disabilities are benefiting powerfully from AI in these days, with especially a tool like summarizing, because you can take long email threads that go on and back and forth on complicated things and say, can you summarize this for me, and just get the main points and not have to parse out who said what, why, when, how, and what part of the thread got orphaned and what didn't matter and all that. Tons of time saving in summarizing websites, summarizing technical papers or PDFs, making it much more easy for people to consume content. But pro tip, especially at workplaces where you're dealing with other people's data as well, scan for sensitive information before summarizing. At the time of this presentation, we're still in beta mode for a lot of these products. And, take care of other people the way you would take care of yourself. And that's summarizing where you might accidentally have some data privacy issues. But back to emotion, personification, treating AI like it's a person. Charting these waters might not sit well with everyone's compass. But when it comes to personification, I think there's only really 3 pathways here. You can personify AI like it's a person, or you can direct AI, just give it a task and have it do it. You don't treat it like a person, you treat it like a calculator. Legit. Also, avoiding AI altogether. Also legit. But what I'm suggesting today is a hybrid approach, where you might want to do different strategies based on different circumstances or situations. For instance, the cases where you want to personify AI, these are examples that fall into right brain activities. All writing, word crafting, personal issues, learning something specific about something you need to do, learning activities, all the right brain type activities. Directing AI is an approach that you might want to take when as a left brain activity, like organizing, formulating, or technical constructions. And, these are easier to do because basically, if you can think of the verb, for instance, summarize, you just say summarize this, and then you put the data there and achieved, done. You get the benefit of AI. Format this, organize this, give me a list of this. Pretty direct use of AI when you just tell it what to do and you get back your result. But there's another category where you may want to avoid AI altogether. This is when communication needs to be in person or face to face, or you need the social interaction and you don't want to just retreat into a completely electronic world. You want to dive in and have that real human contact for the benefit of both parties. So all three of these. But some people say don't personify AI at all. And I don't think that's completely the best thing for if you're doing right brain activities. And here's why it makes it really hard not to personify, because AI affects our feelings like a person would. Here's some recent clips that I've cut out that AI has been giving back to me. Stuff like, your interpretation holds some truth. Oh, that feels good. I've got some value here. Thank you for sharing your experience, and I'm sorry to hear that. I'm feeling some empathy here. I know it's AI. I know it's a calculation. I know it's just a semantic. These are the words that came next from all these other words, but I know they're based on humans, and when I see those words, they affect me emotionally. Your revised version is concise and effectively conveys the key points. Woohoo! My writing is doing it. I understand your goal. You're right. Absolutely. I see. Thank you for sharing. And that's a lovely version, Michael. That one gets me. Oh, yeah. I created something truly lovely, didn't I? Okay. It affects us emotionally. But that leads me to this. Actionable critiques. More treasure. If you're bold enough, you can take your writing and stick it in there and say, give me some constructive feedback. Will my writing accomplish X, Y, and Z? Tell me how I can make this writing even better. And then hold on, see the list of action items it gives you, and then put in the work to improve it. Often AI gives you more work to do. This is great for all writing. And if you're not getting good feedback, explain more context. Explain why the feedback's not helpful. Explain how and why you did what you did, and you don't agree with the edits that it would want to make. And then further refine and keep in that relationship, and you'll get better and better output. Not just on the end copy, but output on how you do the creation process and how you build yourself as a person. Which comes to inner critic defenses. Sometimes our inner critic gets the best of us, and we're like, no, my work is terrible. But you can ask for assurances, and not just for AI to say, this is great, or this is good, or something superficial and judgmental of, oh, this is terrible, or this is the best thing ever. Something that you can sink your teeth into that says, where you ask specifically, list with examples where my writing is engaging and effective, and explain why. I want to see evidence. Line by line or word by word if you have to, and ask specifically about what you need to hear. Any concerns about your writing? Is it engaging? Is it got spelling errors, grammar errors? Will someone who has this disposition be able to understand this? Anything you need assurance about, you can ask for your writing, and it will give you great feedback about that. And here's some more about why personifying AI gives the best results. I think I just need to show you an example, because it's hard to imagine this without an example. And I'm going to take the time to read this whole thing, so you don't need to skim it really fast. I'll read the whole thing to you because I think it's worth the time to show it to you. Here I was working on a bio of myself, and I had gone through several revisions already, and here's the kind of personifying way that I dealt with in working with AI to get this out. And you might be surprised by some of the things you see in here. For instance, let me take out the part about me being from Saudi Arabia. I don't think that really matters. Also, my kids are grown up now. I don't have a plan to put a thing about bedtime stories in my talk. I don't want to mislead people that way. Also, I don't want to directly invite people to come to my talk. This really does need to be specifically a bio, and it does need to be 70 to 100 words. I think we're getting close. I think we're getting a little bit over that. I didn't do a word count, but if you could check it for me, that would be great. I do like the playful narrative that you started to stick in there with some creative adjectives and kind of like a playful meet this person kind of a thing. That was nice. I don't know. It feels weird to say that I'm about love and loving people and working out ways for people to use or communicate in nonviolent ways with each other, to resolve and conflict and stuff like that. But maybe there's a way to weave that in without sounding too sappy or stereotypically cliche. And I'm looking for that narrative from beginning to middle to end here still. And can you help me with this revised feedback? Notice some of the elements of things that are going into this kind of stuff. You can change your mind. You can add your opinions, give half-baked thoughts. You can express your emotions and give feedback to the AI. You can ask multiple questions at once. You might not do this to a real person, just one question at a time, please. No, you throw all your questions, 15 of them if you've got them, and let it answer. Be vulnerable in some places, be guarded in some places. Explain your conundrums and use bad grammar and spelling. I mean, it was trained on stuff that had similar misspellings and grammar issues, so it knows. Identify your frustrations, state your wishes, make unreasonable requests, agree or disagree. So important about disagreeing. We'll get into that in a minute. Why? Why give it all this emotional dump of info dumping onto a computer this way? It's because AI models analyze the personal elements of your communication, such as not only the content, but the style and tone. It then matches these elements with similar patterns found in the expressions of countless authors in its training data. And by doing this, AI generates a response that is most likely to be relevant and meaningful to your original input, which is so powerful and so effective for what you came to AI for in the first place. So, back to the digital high seas, where from your hands the compass swings. Next up, we need to talk about process, the AI content creation process. And thinking about this, one thing that stuck out to me, if I had to just summarize all of it into some of the most important parts of creating content with AI, it would be this: disagree until you see your reflection. And here's what I mean by that. You know, if you're using AI and you're describing, hey, here's what I'm trying to say, this is what I'm trying to do, this is what I'm trying to accomplish, and you get back a result that looks like this, like, yeah, I like the little solar flares and the flowers, and the moon is a nice touch, and I can tell this represents a person, but is it me? And if you have that little twinge in you that says, hey, you know, this is kind of ominous, you know, that's kind of a shadowy figure, I don't know if that's what I want to portray. That's not exactly what I'm trying to communicate. Disagree until you see your reflection. Keep going. And, you know, sometimes AI is going to jump ahead of you with a wonderful idea, And sometimes you're going to jump ahead of AI with the wonderful idea. But you're in this race condition, making progress, going forward, getting better and better and better until you're like, oh, yes, this reflects me and what I'm specifically trying to say in this communication piece. So a really powerful thing about content creation is to put you in it, driving it from start to finish, such that you disagree until you see your reflection. And that brings up a really powerful point about how valuable you are. You don't belong simply because someone accepts you and declares, hey, you belong. True belonging comes from recognizing your immeasurable value and realizing that you are desperately needed by everyone. And you're in amazing times right now where the barriers to making life wonderful for yourself and everyone around you are dying away fast. The barriers are dying away fast in the era of AI. You know, previously, no money, no education, no skills, no training, no know-how, don't have time, no motivation, no energy. I'm afraid that X, Y, and Z. Humans are scaling up. I had this idea. Somebody on a YouTube video said to me like, hey, publishing a book to Amazon is not that hard. You could just, in 4 hours, sit down and then you'd be done. I'm like, what? I don't know if I believe that. I'm going to give that a try. I took it as a challenge. And, I didn't have a book to try it with. And I was like, And I had an idea for a book. So I gathered together all my notes. And on a given Saturday, I took together all my notes. I took AI and I speech wrecked using AI to put all my thoughts and words and page after page and chapter after chapter into my book. And I did editing with AI and grammar checks with AI and brainstorming with AI. And lots of these techniques that you're seeing here, I did them with AI, and I improved and improved and improved until I got something. It was my book. It's like, I can't believe it. And the next day I was like, okay, well, I want to publish this out to Amazon. Let's see if we can do this in 4 hours. And you know what? I didn't have a book cover. AI to the rescue. It took me over to Canva. It showed me what to click on, and I clicked on it. And then before I knew it, I was there in Canva as a newbie editing, and I came up with my book cover. It's like, wow. And then AI helped me fill out all the forms needed to publish and describe and categorize my book and put it into Amazon.com and start selling it. And it's like, wow, can't believe it. And in one weekend, I went from idea to published author, self-published author. I was like, wow. And then on another weekend, I did the same thing with the audiobook version and published it to YouTube. And it was like I took an AI clone of my own voice and used my AI clone to read my book and create the audiobook with 11 labs, making sentence by sentence and paragraph by paragraph with the emotional tone that I wanted to convey for each paragraph and each sentence of my book until I compiled it all together and released my book. I didn't stop there. I went and I said, I had this idea for a clothing idea for a line of clothes that I could start making. And I made the very first ones and opened up a store with AI generated vector art that I was able to make these flowers and start my new brand design and more designs to come. But it helped me launch this in one weekend. So if you're there thinking, what can I do with AI? Or what can I do as a person? Check again with AI. There's a world of tools coming out with AI, and they are empowering you to do what you couldn't have done before. So I wanted to leave you with that. But in conclusion, it's you. And I want to leave you with this. fellow captains of the digital high seas. Every piece you craft, be it a word, an image, a video, a digital masterpiece, is a splash you make in the vast sea. You're not just writing emails and creating posts and sending more text messages, but discovering your reflection within them. And AI, it does echo voices from the past, but in the end, it's merely a tool. The true essence of your communication is you. The real treasure isn't found in the AI echoes or in the ultimate AI prompt, but in your hands that steer the narrative, in your heart that swings the compass, your existence, your identity, your most captivating story. And in every piece you craft and in every message that you send, the world needs to hear it thundering across the ocean. So in this grand voyage of communication on the AI high seas, know this: you are the treasure. You shape the world with your creations, all the while shaping the beauty that we see when we experience you. From your hands, the compass swings. I'd love to hear your questions and comments down below. And I hope that today you're able to walk away with a whole bunch of new treasures and new ways of using AI to make the world a better place, to make the world more wonderful, because it's beginning to experience more and more of the beauty of you. Thanks so much. Until next time, peace.